I'm Glenn McGuinness, and this is Outburst. On the program, should MPs returning to Parliament be fully vaccinated?
They're supposed to be intelligent people, so I would think they would want to be.
No, they shouldn't. It's personal choice.
I'm kind of wishy-washy there.
I just think everybody should be fully vaccinated.
But first, the federal government recently announced a standardized vaccine passport for Canadians, which will include some of your personal history, such as your name, your date of birth, and your COVID-19 vaccine history. This, of course, is meant to be a measure of protection for Canadians both within our borders and for those traveling abroad. Though many people will applaud this, there are still some who are on the fence about how effective this may be. So, we took this question to you.
Do you feel vaccine passports will help keep Canadians safe?
I think it's a giant step, and it's basically because without a vaccine passport, you can't go to a sporting event, restaurants. There's just so many things now that you can't do without it, and it's hopefully pushing the ones that are hesitant or don't want to take it towards that 90 or 95%, which we could very well eradicate the problem.
I believe it works, yes. Just because I've heard and known people that they want to go to concerts, they want to go to hockey games, football games, or anything in particular that requires to have this. They just go and do it, not because they're being told to, but because they're being restricted from certain things that they enjoy doing. So they just don't bother and just say, okay, fine, I'm just going to go get it and be done with.
Yes, very much. I'm a huge supporter of vaccine mandates, vaccine passports. If they're the final incentive that we need to get our vaccination rates up to 90% or whatever this D variant is going to take, then absolutely we need to do that.
Oh, this is a big dilemma. So I think it's help, but I feel like sometimes it's not. So maybe it's help for numbers, how many people take the vaccine. But I think it's some kind of condition to enter any places, and but for government, yeah, it's help government.
I don't know how the passport's going to make a difference, other than stymieing some businesses and some people. There are people that won't get vaccinated. So, we're already on the 4th variant of COVID. So the vaccine that originally was designed to combat COVID is not working. And they say efficacy after 3 months is down to 60%. So I don't know how passports are going to help that. I don't think it will.
It seems like it's an intrusion on our ability to be free-moving people, but I can see the necessity behind it, yeah.
I feel like it's the only way out of the whole COVID situation. It sucks that there's some people that are that don't want to get vaccinated, but I feel like it's the only way out for to get out of COVID.
I definitely do. I think the vaccine passports are a really good idea. They're already a thing. I remember in elementary school you're not allowed to go to school unless you had certain vaccines. So in 7th grade they would check all of them, and it's already established in Canada, so I think it's a good idea to keep on going.
Absolutely, 100%. Why? Oh my gosh, it's so obvious.
Well, it is obvious to us. I guess it's the evolution of our social sort of climb to a position where we can get to where we're all comfortable. And the thing is that if that's what the next step is, then that's what we should be doing. So the thing is, I don't know, intelligence tells you.
Oh, I don't know, yeah.
What,
I don't know, because people have good reason to be suspicious and worry about things, but the more you can't do something, and you're going to need a passport to be able to do it, it's going to become a motivator that hopefully overcomes whatever people's fears are.
I think it is really important that we all do our best to get these vaccine passports. I've got mine. I'm flown here from Victoria. Please get vaccinated. It is so important. This will save lives.
Absolutely, positively, yes. Do it.
Yes.
Get it over with. Get your vaccine done. Get vaccinated. Move on.
keep the whole world safe, yeah.
People are going to be what they are. So the people who don't want to get a passport won't ever get a passport. So the system wouldn't work, but it helps for people who want to travel.
No, I don't. I think that it restricts so many young people, especially guys this age and a little bit older, from accessing so much of society. I think that it's premature. I think that there are, for adults, I understand it, but for kids and for teenagers, I think it actually creates the potential for more long-term harm than good.
No, because even with the vaccines, it's not 100% foolproof, and that they just recently made it. Usually it takes about 10 years before it becomes safe, so we don't know the outcome, and it might just cause more problems than anything.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think if we're going to be out in public, and even here where there's not very many people for the market, it's hard to maintain distance, and it's better to know that, like, people are vaccinated. We're both vaccinated, although we haven't been asked once yet here for our passports or proof, but we are.
I definitely do. I mean, now that bars only let vaccinated people in, I just feel a lot safer knowing that everybody around me is vaccinated. It's just a comfort thing, I would say.
I know some people seem to think it's privacy issues, but I think they're not asking for a whole lot of information. They're only asking if you are vaccinated. And I think that will help, yes. I'm in favor of the passport, yes.
Look, the bottom line with all this is that nobody was around here when the pandemic took place in 1918. So there's no playbook for this. Everybody is making it up as they go. The politicians, the medical people, the politicians especially, should stay the hell out of it, for sure. Let the doctors do it.
No, I really don't. The vaccine passport, I think, really is unconstitutional, and that's only my opinion, whether you agree with it or not. They said it was a choice. Now, myself, I am fully vaccinated. But there are people out there who don't feel comfortable with it, and honestly, I'm fine with that. If you don't, that's fine. But you shouldn't be forced to get this vaccine to live a normal life.
Probably would. I agree with the passport, but the most important thing is everybody get their vaccines, and that will keep us safe.
From looking at the national news last night, it's going to be a cost factor to the small business person to have something to enforce those rules, But the emphasis should be up on the people themselves. If you're not vaccinated, stay in your own home and stay away from the public, and that'd be the best course of action for people to take,
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think they're important. I think that they're hopefully a temporary measure until the vaccination rates are high enough that we don't require them anymore. And I think that there's a lot of fear around them being permanent or getting, more serious as time goes on. But really, I think it's hopefully just a temporary thing until we get safe for everyone.
It's safe to say Canadians find transparency from within the federal government very important. People expect truth and clarity from those who govern us on issues such as fiscal responsibility or how this government is handling the pandemic. So we sent our cameras out to ask Canadians if they are pleased with the level of honesty we get from those who govern. Our question:
are you satisfied with transparency in the federal government?
I think the federal government is doing their best. I think there have been some missteps, but I think they are being transparent. I'm from British Columbia. Dr. Bonnie Henry is extremely transparent with us, and I wish the rest of the country all the best.
No, I don't find that they're being transparent. I find that even the processes of how those decisions are made, the science behind it, I think that it's worth further discussion. I don't necessarily think there's a conspiracy. I just think that it's worth further discussion.
Yes, I am, because no matter who would have been in power, it's a big thing to deal with, and it came upon us so quickly that I think that they're not doing too bad. But I think they need to get together to deal with it.
I haven't been really satisfied with the transparency of any government that I've voted for or not voted for. So I think there's times when they don't tell the public things because they can't or shouldn't due to backlash out of context or whatever, or it gets used against them. And that said, they probably keep things secret that they really shouldn't either, to protect themselves. So it's a bit of a, catch-22.
Yeah, I think I have a different perspective on it, though. I think that they've done a lot of work to put out the information if you want it, but I think if you don't want it, then you don't have to go find it. But I think they've given us enough information, for sure.
It feels like there's always an agenda that comes out a little bit later. Something that we're not hearing about, and then something else comes up a little later. And just like the opening of the border, so to speak, right? The border was closed, and all of a sudden, boom. Within 2 weeks it's open and nobody knows why.
I am. I think it's really good to be aware of the science behind it. I'm a science student, and I think that population should be aware of what goes on in the vaccines because it has a direct effect on us, and science is for everyone, so everyone should know.
I guess so. I mean, there's certain things they can't tell us and they won't tell us, but I think I keep myself informed. I think I know what's happening out there, so. I can kind of read between the lines.
I've been generally satisfied, I think. I think there's always a lack of transparency from governments in general, but I think that sometimes it's needed because people don't always know how to analyze data properly or how to treat information properly, and so to allow everyone access to every piece of information all the time sometimes might not be a good thing. But I personally haven't seen any real issues with transparency from my perspective. Yeah.
I think with the nature of the government, with the nature of things, they're as transparent as they can be. I think with government there's always going to be a level of secrecy, mostly because they're working on stuff, implementing things. Could they be a little bit more transparent? Yeah, maybe so. But I think that's just kind of the nature of government.
Not at all. We see scandal after scandal, especially with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, with all due respect to him. I think there needs to be a smaller government with more transparency and more power given to the people.
Transparency still leaves a lot to be desired, I think, when it comes to the federal government. There's a lot we don't know, and there's a lot they're not telling us.
I do think federal government is transparent about this decision, way more than a lot of provincial governments.
Absolutely not. When they start moving their lips, then we know there's trouble.
Well, that's an interesting question. No, it can never be good enough. I think that the Trudeau Liberals have fallen short of their election promises. On the other hand, I think this period of minority government has been good for transparency in some respects. Certainly has made the parliamentary committees more active. The only downside of that is that it also makes governing that much more difficult because the ministries and the government are forever answering to committee processes. So it's a double-edged sword.
Anything can be more open and it would be better, but I worked for government years ago, and there's only certain things that you're able to divulge, that sort of thing. So I don't see there being a major issue in that regard.
Everything he's questioned on, he doesn't answer the question. He filibusters. You look at some of the dealings he's had and his cabinet. That's what we're hearing. So you can imagine what we don't see. More government is more corrupt government. And you see that in countries that are heavily governed. It's right from the top down.
It can be better, but so far they are doing whatever they can do without affecting the process of governance. That's my feeling is,
I think as long as, to me, transparency of the federal government, as long as the opposition is doing a good job, I think we become aware of anything that, wouldn't say hiding, but everybody's aware of what they're doing. So I think government is working this way. Now, whether we need an election at this time is debatable because it's status quo, but I think the people have spoken, and hopefully a minority government will work again for a while.
In what year was Jean Chrétien first elected Prime Minister of Canada? 1984, 1989, 1993. So 84, 89, or 93.
89? 89? I don't know. 89, I'm guessing.
Ooh, I'm gonna go with 1989.
1993.
84.
89.
1993.
Well, that would be correct.
Well, thank you kindly.
Thank you kindly.
Is that all?
That's it.
After decades of serving as a cabinet minister under both Lester Pearson and Pierre Trudeau, Jean Chrétien first became prime minister in 1993. The 1993 federal election brought change to the political landscape in Canada. After 9 years of progressive conservative governments led by Brian Mulroney and Kim Campbell, Jean Chrétien and the Liberal Party were elected to a majority government. He would go on to win 2 more majority governments in 1997 and again in 2000. Chrétien officially ended his tenure as Prime Minister in December of 2003.
The decision to implement a vaccine mandate on Parliament Hill, which would require all employees, including members of Parliament, to be fully vaccinated by the time Parliament returns, has been met with some opposition. The Conservative caucus, for example, has been delaying their disclosure on how many of its members got their shots. But despite the resistance, Conservative Party leader Aaron O'Toole said his party will abide by the new rules. So, we sent our cameras out to ask Canadians if they expect our federally elected officials to be up to date with their COVID-19 shots. Our question:
should MPs returning to the House of Commons be fully vaccinated?
Well, I think they definitely should be. I mean, if that's going to be your policy you put in place for other sectors, it's got to be the author's policy as well, for sure.
Definitely, yeah. If they're going to be kind of representing, House of Commons, they should represent kind of community as a whole. Yeah, it's important to be vaccinated, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. They represent what Canada's about, and they have to be an example for everyone.
Yes, I believe they should.
Could you tell me why or why not you feel that way?
Well, we have to be, I just had to be double vaxxed to get into my library. So they're going into a place where there are lots of people, and they should be double vaxxed, I believe.
Absolutely. I think everybody else is expected to be vaccinated, so I don't see why they'd be any different.
If they're expecting everyone else to be, yeah, I think so. If that's what they're expecting of everyone else, they should expect it of themselves.
No, they shouldn't. It's personal choice. Right? So, I mean, the vaccinated are getting sick just as much as the unvaccinated. So, totally 100% against the mandates as far as vaccines go.
I think that in person there should be restrictions. I don't think that anyone should be forced to do anything with their body, but I do think that you do need to have restrictions in place to ensure that the safety of everyone is first and foremost.
Definitely, of course they should. Not just as an example to the rest of us, because this is, an urgent situation that we all need to address, but for the safety of themselves. I mean, they're our representatives, so we need to keep them safe.
I just believe that if they are going to be with each other and interacting, then it's probably in their best interest, because how can you expect everybody else to interact safely when they're not?
Yes. I mean, I think everybody that doesn't have a medical reason should be fully vaccinated, so obviously they should be too.
Absolutely. They need to set an example. They're supposed to be leading the country. They need to set an example of the right thing to do.
For sure. I think as long as they don't have any health conditions that prevent them from being vaccinated, I think they should be fully vaccinated just like the rest of the population.
Absolutely, yes, 100%. They represent us as Canadians. They got to be there doing their jobs, and they can't be a bad example to the rest of the country.
I believe it's their choice, pro-choice.
If that's the mandate, then there shouldn't be any... I know people don't normally take suggestions at face value. There's always questions behind it. That's natural. If you have a thinking brain, you're going to question things. But I think for the benefit of what's going on, I think that's a necessity without a doubt, yeah. And I think they should do that, yes.
I just think everybody should be fully vaccinated. It just kind of it's just common sense in my books, everything, I think. And just to set a good example, I guess, for the rest of Canada.
Well, I don't necessarily think so, but I think that if they're going to mandate it across other workforces, then it's got to be consistent. But no, I think that mandating vaccine passports, I think, is a government overreach.
Yeah, I think so. If they're expecting members of the public to be fully vaccinated, I think it's only fair that MPs have to be fully vaccinated as well.
Oh, definitely fully vaccinated for not just their protection, but protection of others.
It's a personal opinion. It's personal for them. If they feel like they need to be vaccinated, fine. If they got any reason to not vaccinate it, fine. Just stay at a distance because you know how the transmission of the virus is done.
Yes, I think they should, because they're supposed to be intelligent people, so I would think they would want to be, and all looked after. Yeah, yes.
If we have to be fully vaccinated in hospitals and medical facilities, then I think they should take that responsibility as well.
I'm kind of wishy-washy there.
Okay.
Lean more towards it's up to you, personal choice.
I didn't know that. Yeah. No.
With more and more Canadians fully vaccinated, venues like concerts or sporting events are now letting people in at full capacity, which is good news for many. But the COVID numbers we have been seeing have been nowhere near the bottom of the scale, and that has some people concerned that these measures are being put in place too soon. So we took to the streets to get your opinion on this matter. Our question:
do you agree with allowing maximum capacity at public events?
That still kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like restaurants sitting really, I took a plane this morning and I was sitting directly beside somebody in a small airplane. So I don't know, it still kind of freaks me out a little bit, but we got to start being normal at some point, right? So might as well start now.
Well, just to keep everybody safe. I think, if we're going to go down this track, then yeah, let's keep everybody safe. And if you've got a vaccine passport or you've got proof of vaccination, then sure. I have no problem with the rest.
Yeah.
Restaurants, sporting events, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, if everyone's screened properly, then I don't think it's a volume thing. I think the as many as it can hold, I think it should be maximized, yes.
Oh, I was kind of upset about that they would allow that many in there and then the small businesses can't. I think that was the big business doing the talking there, and I don't agree with that because COVID travels everywhere.
I don't. And the reason I don't is because in enclosed spaces, with the current situation, I see potential issues arising. Being in the medical field gives me more pause.
No, not right now.
Why or why not?
Because they sit too close together, and we have too many people that aren't being careful.
Yes, and I'm expecting to go to my grandson's hockey game soon as well. I think as long as people wear their masks and, keep a fair distance from each other, and maybe capacities shouldn't be at in the start, in the beginning, but I think we can work our way up to that. I would feel comfortable going.
It really depends on what event it is and how the ventilation is and what sort of spacing they have. There's no one-size-fits-all option. I was at a Blue Jays game this summer and it was at half capacity and I was okay with it. I would not have been comfortable if it had been full capacity. So, I think every place needs to kind of figure out what works for them.
Not really, not right now. With the vaccination, it kind of makes things a little bit different, but I think we still should be limiting the amount of people in places right now.
I do. I think as long as people abide by the rules, are fully vaccinated, there's no really issue, I think, with having events at full capacity. I think people, many people have done what they've been asked to do. A good example of that is getting their both vaccines, and there's no reason to continue to punish them for, any further. So.
Not really. Kind of got mixed feelings about it. I do think that it's very interesting that there is kind of a disconnect between the large public places such as arenas, stadiums, and but then restaurants don't have the same capacity. But it also changes demographically from province to province.
I still think there should be some distancing with this going on. Again, I don't believe in, vaccinated against unvaccinated. I still think everyone should take precautions, what's out there. So there should be, distancing and maybe less than the full capacity, I guess.
Again, I think that's all dependent on what the regulations are, whether it's fully vaccinated, social distancing, and what type of event. It's very different when you're at a max capacity event that's outside, one that's indoors. I think there's a lot more to it than just saying yes or no. But if there's safe restrictions in place and that studies have shown that they can do so safely, I don't think it's a bad idea to get full capacity back. But definitely with some regulations or with protocol in place for the ifs, ands, or whatever.
Maximum? No, I do not. I think we need to keep we still need to be keeping our bubble. And I think we need to shut the borders down again, personally.
It's nice to see 20,000 people in the stadium, but it's dangerous, But they're taking all the precautions. They make sure everybody is double vaccinated, etc. when you go in. So you're waiting an hour in lineup just to get into the stadium because of the precautions they're taking. So if it's in a situation like that, absolutely. If it's just people showing up to watch a game, I doubt it, especially in an enclosed area.
As long as people are taking the proper precautions and whatnot.
Yeah. I work at an event space that is working at full capacity right now, and it feels very safe and good. So I agree. Yeah,
I think it depends on the event. Like if they're checking for vaccination status, if people are masked, I think that's a much lower, risk factor. At the same time, given, the virulence of the Delta variants and the way things are going now, I wouldn't want to be in a movie theater with people unmasked and unvaccinated, for sure.
I guess it depends what maximum capacity means. If maximum capacity is 10 to 15, it also depends on where you're talking. Has it been a hot spot? Eventually you have to open up. So it's a really nuanced kind of question and very sort of situationally specific. I'm on board with it within reason would be my answer.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.